Good morning. We've heard some great ideas over the past 24 hours, but we're pretty confident that our approach will be the most thoughtful, creative, yet practical approach that you're going to hear today. My name's Damon Orobona. This is Elizabeth Klipp. This is Victor Gutierrez. Liz and I are going to walk you through the project's concept, and then Vic's going to take you through the financial analysis and deal structure. So our project is called Penn Commons. If you've ever been to Washington, D.C., one of the first things you'll notice is a lack of a real, functioning residential neighborhood in the heart of downtown D.C. Penn Commons will change that. It's going to be a place where people want to live. It's going to be a place where office workers will go on their lunch break. It'll be a place where commuters will cut through to get to the many metro stations around this site. It'll be a place where tourists want to go when they visit the city.
So the driving force behind the original value of our site clearly stems from its unique centrality, even for being located in downtown D.C. The site is located just 2 blocks, a short walk, in fact, equidistant from every single existing metro line in the district, and the much-anticipated Silver Line. Just to the adjacent to our site is the 7th Street Entertainment Corridor, which is anchored by the Verizon Center and surrounded by a myriad of exciting bars, restaurants, and other entertainment options. Immediately to the south of our site, we have the National Mall, which we all know is enthralling to tourists, but it's also a big draw for locals who relish it from everything from jazz in the gardens to weekly kickball games. Immediately to the north of our site is the Hines City Center project, which is pioneering the idea of a modern mixed-use development in an area that was previously predominantly office-dominated to the west of 7th Street. And then City Center is under construction, and it's actually preparing to deliver, which we think will kickstart the image of this neighborhood as vibrant and dynamic just in time for our project to emerge. Even the Donald has taken an interest in the area with the old post office, soon to become the newest Trump project. And then with Union Station in short proximity and the airport's just a few metro stops away, this project definitely is one of the most travelable, accessible, walkable, and livable locales in the district. So having taken a look at what the area already has to offer, our team shifted focus to what uses we believe the site can support, settling on the 4 that you see here. Hotel and average daily rates in the district, especially in areas catering to tourists and in the central business district, have remained very strong. And our team believes that a modern, mid to upper priced hotel would be supported and would complement the other uses we envision for the site. Office properties in the D.C. metropolitan area have experienced some struggles in the past years. However, we believe that those challenges are concentrated in the suburban office parks and the older downtown inventory. Demand for Class A modern office space centrally located downtown has remained strong, as evidenced by City Center, which was fully pre-leased and we see as a strong indicator of success for our project. Multifamily would also be well supported, despite projections of a surge in supply in the next couple of years, primarily because of as I mentioned earlier, the unique, incredible centrality of our site, and also the comprehensive community that we're planning to create. We envision actually a mix of micro units and traditional apartments that would diversify our tenant pool and allow us to capture a wider range of DC apartment seekers. Finally, retail in downtown has remained strong and is currently looking at sub 5% vacancy. We believe that a variety of retail options would be fueled by the daytime activity provided by our office component and also the nighttime activity provided by our hotel guests and our residents.
In addition to taking a look at the market, we also want to take a look at what all the various master plans and design guidelines said that the city's published said about our property. Interestingly enough, the National Capital Planning Commission's Monumental Core Master Plan had specific guidelines about this, or specific suggestions, recommendations about our property. The city wants to see the J. Edgar Hoover building taken down. They want to see a vibrant neighborhood put in this place. They want to see more residential. The city wants to see open space connections flowing through the site. City would like to see D Street, a platted but unbuilt road from DC's 1700s initial plan, extended through the southern portion of our property. And the city would like to see some kind of public commemorative space along Pennsylvania Avenue, as Pennsylvania Avenue is known as a Grand Monumental Boulevard. We took a look at these recommendations, and frankly, we think our proposal captures the city's vision even better than this rendering that you see in the master plan. So our project is Penn Commons. We're going to create a complete mixed-use neighborhood in the heart of downtown DC. We're going to be adding substantial amounts of residential units to really kickstart and catalyze a new neighborhood in downtown. We're going to have generous open space connections that flow from the north of the site, from Gallery Place, Verizon Center area, south down to the National Mall and monuments. We're going to be extending D Street through the southern portion of our site, and we're going to be creating what we refer to as Hoover Tower along Pennsylvania Avenue, an iconic art installation and viewing tower that will further the Pennsylvania Avenue's image as a monumental boulevard. Now, if you look at the overall context of the neighborhood, you'll see some logical flow. You have logical flows from people at restaurants, retail spaces around Verizon Center and Gallery Place that flow down through our site to when they visit the National Mall. And similarly, you have tourists who are congregating at all the nearby museums that go up towards Gallery Place in Chinatown directly through our site. And additionally, people walking along Pennsylvania Avenue would definitely stop to check out the Hoover Tower and associated public plaza.
So now let's take a look at some of the delightful details that we believe are going to distinguish our project from all other locales in the district, beginning with our retail anchor, which is going to be a community-oriented grocery store located in the base level of our multifamily building. This grocery store will serve not only our tenants, but also those of the City Center project and the neighboring area, which doesn't currently have a grocery store.
As we mentioned, we're going to be extending D Street through the southern portion of the site. However, we're going to keep D Street as a pedestrian alley and have an iconic archway design that goes over the pedestrian street. We're doing this for two reasons. First, we want to do this as both the eastern and western anchors to the site to draw people into our property to help our retail tenants. And secondly, and probably more notably, we're using this unique archway design to maximize 160-foot building height along Pennsylvania Avenue so we can have 160-foot buildings all the way through the middle of our site. If you're familiar with Washington, D.C., you know there's a height limit. 160 feet is as high as you can go anywhere in the city, and there's only a few specific places where you can reach that height. Our location on Pennsylvania Avenue is one of those places, and we really wanted to maximize that opportunity.
Obviously, the most recognizable attribute of our site is going to be the Hoover Tower. We see the Hoover Tower to be art that you can enter, drawing the community in and up to the top of a 160-foot viewing tower with incredible vistas of the National Mall and the monuments. Our team also wanted to focus on some of the smaller details that make these places successful places that people want to be, such as placing capital bike share stations in on our property, allowing people to get out and enjoy the city in a carefree way. These little details are going to complement the crux of our proposal, which is this public space, the promenade moving through our project. This is going to be a flexible outdoor area that can be used by residents and the community for anything from pop-up shops to sculpture galleries to weekend farmers markets that is going to bring in the community and hopefully achieve that neighborhood feel that that is the goal of this project.
And lastly, we want to utilize the innovation of crowdsourcing for our small retail spaces. We saw this as an opportunity to really engage the surrounding community and generate a lot of buzz and excitement about our project in the 3 years leading up to its construction and development.
So now that we've taken a walk through our site, let's step back and look at the mixed-use breakdown. We strategically placed our hotel component on the southeast end of the site, such that it had immediate access to the tourist attractions and the mall, but also was very accessible to business travelers utilizing our offices and the offices to the west in the Central Business District. We placed our multifamily component in the northeast quadrant, comprised of both the micro units and the traditional apartments shown in yellow. The traditional apartments are going to take advantage of those 160-foot height limits. They're going to have incredible views of the courtyard, the Hoover Tower, and the mall, but also be quite convenient with a grocery store on their base level. The micro units will make up for their lower height restrictions by having incredible access to that 7th Street entertainment corridor, which is something that we think those younger tenants are going to find very valuable, the younger tenants that we're seeking for those micro units. And then the entire west end of our project will be comprised of our office component. And that's primarily to link the more office-dominated areas that you see to the west of the site with the more entertainment and residentially oriented areas you'll see to the east.
And we will be taking a strategic approach to obtaining entitlements. If you're familiar with Washington, D.C., you know that they're currently undergoing a zoning code rewrite project. Similarly, we'll be leasing back the FBI building, or the FBI to the FBI building till the end of 2016. When you take a look at the existing zoning for the site compared to the proposed zoning of the site, you notice that there's more flexibility offered in the proposed zoning code, which is scheduled to be adopted in 2014 or 2015. To take advantage of this, we'll be obtaining entitlements closer to when the FBI vacates the property to really maximize the flexibility allowed with our project.
So above we have our timeline. We believe we could close on the property and lease back January 1st, 2014, at which time we'll lease the building back to the FBI for 3 years. During that time period, we'll do our pre-leasing and our pre-construction services and finalize our site plan. After the FBI vacates, we will raise the building and start construction. We think this will take 3 years. And then we will open and stabilize the property and operate it, selling in the 4th year of the buildings being completed for a total hold period of 10 years. Now that we have an understanding of the concept, we'll dive into the financials and the deal structure. We believe an offer of $110 million to be appropriate for the FBI building. We believe the total development cost will be $780 million. We believe that we can raise 65% of that through a construction to perm loan at 5.5%, with construction loans being priced at about 300 to 350 over LIBOR. We believe that 5.5 is attainable. And lastly, for the equity portion, we plan on doing a 90-10 split with an equity partner. We've identified a sovereign wealth fund to be the most likely player. We're hoping for the Norwegian sovereign wealth fund, who is actively looking to invest $11 billion in the U.S. real estate market. Now, above here, we have our development cost. Things to note on this is the $10 million allocation for the Hoover Tower. This might be a little low, but we think that any shortfall will be made up by some type of art-focused nonprofit. Secondly, we've built in 5% contingencies on both hard and soft costs, and we've also included a 3% developer fee for a grand total of $780 million for a lead project. This is our cash flow side. I apologize that it's a little difficult to read, but up top we have our unlevered cash flows, resulting in a sub 12%, 11.6% IRR, and on the bottom a levered cash flow resulting in a 12% or 15% IRR. Things to note on the cash flow on the operations side, we believe that we'll have the office building 60% pre-leased with the remaining stabilizing over 26 months. The multifamily absorption we assume will take place over 22 months with the micro units leasing up in 11 months. The retail will stabilize within 14 months and the hotel within a year. On the reversion side, we're building to a 9.2 and we're selling at a blended rate of 6.5. And so here we have our profits. On the left, we have our profits on the deal level, and on the right to the partnership level. On the deal level, the 15% IRR and 2.8 multiple levered. And on the right is our GP-LP split. We've structured the deal as follows: a pari passu split to a 6% IRR, an 85-15 to an 11% IRR, and a 80-20 thereafter, resulting in a 23% exclusive of the developer fee return to us, the developer, and a 15% 2.7 multiple return to our development partner.
So hopefully this presentation has served to demonstrate that submitting an offer on this RFP will not only be financially feasible, but will enable Team 26 to reshape this underutilized block, reinvigorate a neighborhood, and create a dynamic, vibrant community in the heart of DC's downtown. Thanks for listening, and now we'll field any questions you may have.
Judges, what say you?
I have just a couple of
because I have so much information to absorb on all of these, so thank you for being patient with me at least. What was your FAR again, and what is your heights along Pennsylvania Avenue?
Heights along Pennsylvania Avenue, 160 feet on the tallest portion.
Okay.
In the middle, closer to the Hoover Tower, and the art installation is also 160 feet. These smaller buildings, I believe, rise up 8 stories. Is that correct?
Yep. And what was your overall FAR?
It was around 8.
Just around an 8 FAR.
Okay.
And what were your leasing assumptions in the office space in terms of tenant improvements and rental rates and operating costs?
Sure. On the office, we assumed that we'd be 60% pre-leased, rental rates of $60 per square foot. Our TIs are $50 and $15 for renewals. And we assumed new leasing commissions of 4%.
And is that 60 net or gross?
Gross.
How do you feel about your purchase price offer? $110 million. $60 an FAR.
Yeah, it's low, and the reason it's low is because we didn't maximize the density of this site. We have a lot of green space, and that resulted. We backed into our return, and that's what we backed into our purchase price. So that's why we have a low purchase price.
Did you see other comps in the market that were in that price per square foot range?
What we didn't see, because this is a very unique property, so it's a little difficult to ascertain the price per square foot exact comparison. But we did take a look at. We thought it was a little low, but then we started looking at some of the comparables in the area, and one that really caught our attention that we thought was similar was the Georgetown heating plant that just sold. And looking at, this was a similarly complex and mysterious building in a sense. Just that no one knows what's there. And I think that if you were to back into a price based on what you could build on that site, we saw that they could have gotten, probably it could have sold for more in the financials based on what they could have built there. However, developers are a little bit hesitant to spend more on a project with so much complexity, so much mystery around it, and so potentially so many regulations. Once this is turned over to us, there's a lot that we would have to contend with in order to actually achieve the density that would be required to get the purchase prices that some of the that would have been higher, and that went into consideration. That's something that it's a lot of money, and we wanted to be able to actually achieve it in reality once we started going through the process of approvals and making it happen.
Follow-up question. I think you're all probably experiencing the real world, which is how to balance all the different stakeholders, your investors and your own bottom line, as well as all of the planning agencies, and not to mention your surrounding residences or surrounding neighbors. But in looking at because I think that price, GSA is going to be looking for the highest and best value. Mm-hmm. And did you look at your use mix and how you might be able to improve that value? Or you said you kind of backed into your conclusion. Was that based on, what was your priority, I guess that's what I'm trying to ask. Was it trying to come up and satisfy that use mix, or was it that bottom line dollar?
Well, our original priority was exactly that, satisfying the use mix, creating the community that we thought the community, or the surrounding community, wanted to see. But once we did that, we also realized that we had flexibility. As Damon said, we were waiting on some of our entitlements to allow us that higher FAR, especially in the residential categories. And in a lot of ways, maybe this doesn't come through as much in a presentation such as this, but if the competition were speeding up in the way that we felt our purchase price might have been not adequate, the time would be to bump up our density. And we had the flexibility to do that. We could definitely have increased density, but we were hoping that the community would respond positively to the total neighborhood that we were creating, because that was was the real intention.
So, in the office portion, some of it looked kind of deep. How did you arrive at your configuration and the idea that it would have enough light?
Well, I don't know if you probably can't see in this image, but we that's actually a good point, because we originally had the central. You see, there's a curved curtain wall running right along the promenade, and that portion was originally much skinnier because we wanted that to be I mean, essentially signature, like a signature office space, curtain wall filled with light. But we bumped up the density as we were moving along. We said, the promenade is big enough. It's wider than the streets around it already, much wider actually at the time. And we said we need to get that density. So we were hoping that we also considered the width of the office space in the surrounding area. And my hope is that because we surrounded it with glass and we tried to make it, and in fact, in our original design, which you can't see here, we had sort of a 2-story atrium in the middle that allowed for light to pass through, at least to the first 2 stories where there's retail, and then it elevates, and it's hard to describe because I don't have a picture. But that was our goal, was that this curtain wall, all of the activity would keep it light and open.
Sure, and there is 2 office buildings on that side. I know they were all blue, and it was hard to see, but it's a total of 4 buildings.
We can go back to a couple slides, actually. To the
So that blue section, right here, there's a break, there's a pedestrian entryway. So this isn't just one big building.
you can actually see it a little better on this, so that blue building at the back there, we maximized the height a little, but then we broke down a lower office portion in the front. We tried to give it some dynamism and some changing in massing so that it had that break of light as best as we could while still achieving the density required to make the project work.
I would like to compliment you on really engaging Pennsylvania Avenue and putting an activity generator and staggering the heights so that, halfway into the depth of the site, people will still experience Pennsylvania Avenue.
Thank
So I
you.
want you to let you know that's a very strong design feature that.
Thank you. We were trying to avoid the canyon effect along Pennsylvania, and that went into it. So.
Thank you
It's
so much.
very compelling.
Yeah, I agree on the design. I think you've built in a lot of light and air. The connection with D Street, I think, works great. I guess when you look at the site, where do you see the most value? What part of the land is going to create the most upside?
Well, I think that's probably going to depend on who on our team you ask, in a lot of ways. But I can answer for me personally. I see it being the multifamily because, as we've been seeing, that it is a more office-dominated area, but the multifamily component being relatively large for the area just brings an immediate boost of vibrancy to the area in a way that it couldn't be achieved with primarily office, and hopefully these two have a symbiotic relationship. You have people kind of moving through them throughout 24 hours of the day with the mix of purposes that we have going on.
And just to add to what Liz said, I agree with her on the multifamily completely. I think what the city wants here is they're trying to make downtown a community. And if you don't have the multifamily here, if you just go all office, it's just not going to work. You're not going to. We don't think you'll get it past the city, and we think it's just a logical connection with City Center. We just think the synergies are going to work extremely well. And then also from a financial perspective, we think the micro units will get more than $5 per square foot in rents.
Yep.
That will definitely be the tension, value versus design. So.
You have nearly $35 million of, additional cost between LEED, other upgrades, and the tower cost. Can you talk about your, thought process there and your vision?
Sure. We used the Skanska baseline cost, and we added in for the upgrades that they estimated to, achieve the glass curtain wall, the LEED certification, and that's where those numbers came from. The entire site will be LEED. All the buildings will be. We're targeting LEED silver for all the properties except for the office building closest on Penn. We're targeting LEED platinum for that, just because it's going to have the Pennsylvania Pennsylvania Avenue address, and will be a prestigious office building.
I think I definitely want to commend you on your presentation. I think it was very clear and easy to understand your program. I also think the micro units are kind of an exciting piece to this because it will bring people. I'm a little concerned about whether the math will really prove out, because I think the cost to build a micro unit is going to be more expensive than the cost to build maybe traditional multifamily. So one of the thoughts I had is, since you're giving this gesture to the city, so to say, and they clearly want residential because they're not going to have a cap on FAR there. I'm surprised you didn't push the envelope on that a little bit more. I would have liked to have seen a couple of things. You're giving this Tower Museum at $10 million. I would have taken something from the city for that. You know, I would have been looking at a bonus FAR program for the gestures that you're making, I guess is what I'm saying, and I'm curious as to why you didn't try that approach. You just think it's not
specifically on the multifamily, we have over 1,000 units, and when it came to absorption, that's when we were bumping up into issues. Our absorption assumptions, we think, are pretty aggressive on the traditional multifamily, 40 units a month, and that took us to 22 months. So I think that was the issue. If we did go down that route, then we would definitely have to phase the project into probably 2 phases, and then you just kind of run into construction hurdles because you have to raise the entire building and then start, building the platform, the below ground parking and whatnot. And we thought doing it all in one phase and building a community up was the best way to approach that.
Any other questions, judges? Question from the audience. How do you plan to build up to 160 feet when the limit is 110 feet on Pennsylvania Avenue?
I'll take that. It was, reading through all the zoning regulations on this was confusing, to say the least. I believe my interpretation of the zoning ordinance when we looked at this was that referred you to the 1910 Building Height Act, which allows 160 feet along Pennsylvania Avenue in this stretch.
It's funny because zoning codes are really never confusing. Anything else? Excellent job. Excellent job.